Twitter now responding to Elon Musk, reiterating his demand for user data. He's concerned about the number of fake accounts and bots on the platform and threatened to cancel his deal to buy Twitter. Twitter responding, saying, quote, "We intend to close the transaction and enforce the merger agreement at the agreed price." Elon Musk and Twitter, I mean, this is just the news that keeps on giving.
Elon Musk, he's threatening to call off his $44 billion acquisition of Twitter. He says they're hiding data about fake user accounts. You've never liked Twitter.
They're a garbage company.
Elon Musk threatening again to walk away from his deal to buy Twitter, saying the social media company has thwarted his attempts to get information on fake accounts. And now the Texas Attorney General is launching a probe into Twitter.
Just as another move closer, in my opinion at least, and those of the people that I certainly rely on, to court, to go into court. He believes this is a clear material breach of Twitter's obligations under the merger agreement.
Twitter is basically the same product we met in 2006. I think what Elon should do, if I bought it, I would immediately make Twitter a streaming service alternative. I think Twitter has the credibility and the permission to compete with Netflix and Hulu. I think there's a lot of innovation that Twitter needs. Simple things like an edit button. How much of a pain in the ass is it when you misspell something or cut off what you said, you gotta delete it and write it again? Like, there's tiny UI, UX things. So I think my intuition, given his track record, is I'm sure everyone will talk about freedom of speech and this, that, and the other thing, and I'm empathetic to that. That's a big conversation. Me as a business nerd, I just want to see him operate innovation within the product because I think the product can be much bigger.
In this video, the entire world is talking about Elon Musk's Twitter bid and some of the drama happening behind the scenes. So in this video, a bit of a compilation of some of the comments in the mainstream finance media, and I'll share my thoughts and opinions along the way. So let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store, so check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support.
We just got a 13D that stated very simply, just as another move closer, in my opinion at least, and those of the people that I certainly rely on, to court, to go into court. I think it's simply as simple as that. You can see what's happening to Twitter's share price. And it comes down to this. You know, he has, of course, as we know, made a significant case about the fact that he wants more evidence about the number of fake accounts on the platform. Seems to maintain that it is far above, potentially, Twitter's estimates previously. Estimates it has shared, by the way, in its public filings for years.
Yeah, so, that's awkward.
And says in the 13D, their latest offer to simply provide additional details regarding its own testing methodologies, whether through written materials or verbal explanations, is tantamount to refusing Mr. Musk's data requests. Twitter's effort to characterize it otherwise, merely an attempt to obfuscate and confuse the issue. Mr. Musk has made it clear he does not believe the company's lax testing methodologies are adequate. So he must conduct his own analysis, and he needs the data requested in order to do so. He's not getting it. And Jim, as I said, they seem to be getting closer and closer to court because, of course, he believes this is a clear material breach of Twitter's obligations under the merger agreement.
It sure f***ing is, and here's the problem for Twitter. They're really bent over a barrel here. Either they provide Elon Musk the data he needs to do his own analysis to substantiate Twitter's own claims that they've been regularly filing with the SEC that less than 5% of their daily monetizable users are bots. However, if Twitter is unable to substantiate these claims, they don't provide the data for Elon and his team to do their own analysis, and they attempt to enforce the agreement to force Elon to purchase the company at the originally agreed upon price. If Twitter does end up in court, you know what happens? Mountains of evidence. They open up their black box for the world to see. Twitter will need to substantiate their claims one way or another. Either provide the data for Elon Musk to do his own analysis, or in a court case, in which case, if they've been misleading, deceiving, and lying to investors, aka fraud, Twitter is, let's just say, completely and utterly I think the short story here is it doesn't end well for Twitter. It seems like, and I'm just saying, it seems, I'm not saying it is, but it seems like Twitter is aware that they've been committing securities fraud repeatedly, quarter after quarter. And they're so afraid now of letting the cat out of the bag, while Elon hasn't bent over the barrel, that they just simply do not know what to do. They're like a deer in the headlights, frozen. What do? Do we end up in court and then, oh no, that's bad? Do we just tell Elon, oh yeah, okay, here's the data? Twitter, in short, is in seriously deep shit.
I have to tell you, David, there are many people at Twitter who say, look, he spent a lot of time looking at this. He was satisfied. And suddenly he's not satisfied. That's the kind of thing that in court, in a real court, will matter. And David, specific performance, maybe we should explain that to people, but that would compel Elon Musk to buy the company. Maybe this is all to get away from specific performance. David, does it have a leg to stand on?
It's unclear to me that it does. Remember, he waived due diligence. That was his choice. He waived business due diligence in order to get the deal done very quickly, and he did. And so he was relying, prior to signing that deal and the NDAs that came along with it, he was relying on public information. Now, clearly, he has plenty of data analysts at his disposal, and one would expect that they are telling him something very different than what Twitter tells the world in terms of the number of fake bots, spam accounts on the platform, Jim.
Correct, which makes the whole specific performance argument invalid. If Twitter has committed fraud and lied, Elon Musk made an offer based on fraudulent statements. I mean, how do you think that ends in court? I'll tell you what, it won't be a victory for Twitter.
I don't know what that number is. He clearly wants to know it. He was not able to ascertain it based on public information because he waived due diligence. And if they get to court, he's going to have to prove that this is a breach. It could be very difficult for him to do in Delaware, but that would seem to be what he is setting out to pursue right now.
Well, look, I think when you think about what's going to happen, a lot of the things that have happened to Elon that we hear about are with the SEC, which is civil. This will be civil, too, but there'll be a judge. There'll be an actual process. And I think that it won't be done in the court of public opinion anymore. So, David, I mean, it's entirely possible, as flamboyant, as exciting, and as great as Elon has been with manufacturing, in a court, his buoyant personality won't play toward him. David, I think that we're going to hear about this forever. We're going to get a lot more Elon fatigue.
We are, although forever's coming quickly, because remember on Friday we talked about this, Jim. They've already gotten Hart-Scott. They passed it. There's not going to be a second request. The antitrust review here is done, or is not going to take long. So you could see a vote on this deal within a couple of months. So it's going to play out pretty soon. And the next step, I've asked this question many times already, which is, why isn't Musk already in breach of the merger agreement, since he's clearly not using his reasonable best efforts, as he's obligated to do, to get the deal done?
Spoiler alert, Elon Musk is making his reasonable and best efforts to get the deal done by requesting Twitter provide data to substantiate the claims they've been giving to the SEC quarter after quarter after quarter. This has nothing to do with Elon now. It's up to Twitter. The onus is on Twitter to get the deal done. Just provide Elon the data. His team can do their own analysis and confirm less than 5% of bots, everyone's happy. And if it's more than 5% of bots, well, the deal obviously needs to be renegotiated or canned.
But there's been a choice made on the Twitter board not to push this, not to sue him at this point, sort of take the offensive, so to speak. But one would expect it will end up in Delaware court. Now, to your point, now, and it's important when you brought up about specific performance, that is on the equity. In other words, he is obligated under his contract to come up with the money, the equity. There is one out for him, and that's the financing from Morgan Stanley. If that were to go away for some reason, no reason that you can think of right now, then he would simply be left having to pay a reverse termination fee of roughly $1 billion.
Elon Musk threatening again to walk away from his deal to buy Twitter, saying the social media company has thwarted his attempts to get information on fake accounts. And now the Texas Attorney General is launching a probe into Twitter. It is looking into whether bots are deceiving consumers and businesses.
You heard right. On screen now, a tweet from the Texas Attorney General, who is now sniffing around and investigating Twitter's claims about less than 5% of daily active monetizable users being bots. It's getting real.
Gene Munster is following all these developments. He is managing partner of Loop Ventures. You're out at the WWDC, Gene. Great to have you with us. You say you're surprised Twitter stock is not down more. You think this deal is ultimately going to be scrapped at this point?
Well, the odds are going down, Melissa. I joined you a couple weeks ago and I suggested there's a 70% chance that this gets done. I've revised that to 50%, so it's a toss of the coin. But if you do the weighted, the reason why I think shares should be lower, if you do the weights of what potentially could happen, I think there's a weighted 10% downside. Before I thought it was kind of a flattish outcome. So I simply think that this is purely for entertainment purposes. I would not advise trying to play this from a trade perspective.
It seems like obviously there's a big factor of whether or not the deal goes through, Gene, in terms of the impact on the price. But then even separate of that, let's say Twitter is standalone, there's a huge question mark now over how many accounts the company actually has. And so I'm wondering if you needed to separate these two things, how much is that to the stock, that piece of the puzzle, that maybe all the accounts that it says it has may not be there?
I don't think it has much of an impact on the stock at this point. I think that this is the other piece to this. The two developments today is the probability of this deal getting done are going down. The second development is this is increasingly becoming politicalized, and I think that Elon's influence is on display here. And I think that it's not about the number of bots that they have ultimately. I don't think Elon is really concerned whether it's 5 or 6 or 8% bots.
Strongly disagree with Gene here. I think this is all about the bots. The math is pretty important. If you've done some projections, you have a turnaround plan, a plan for massively increasing monetization on a platform, improving profits. This is obviously going to be based, given Twitter is an advertising-based platform, on monetizing your human users. If there's even a slight discrepancy, a tiny incremental difference between what Twitter's reporting and the reality, this has a massive, massive financial impact and completely changes every number in the deal.
He says it's 20. I think that would be a difficult number to prove. But I think what's at stake here is some principle around frustration that Elon has with Twitter and how they've performed, the type of information they've shared with him. They say they've been forthright. I think that is what is really gnawing at this. And ultimately, Elon's influence, how famous he is going to have a profound impact on the valuation of Twitter. And so you need to separate yourself from the fundamentals. The fundamentals are being negatively impacted by all this chatter. But I think at the end of the day, as investors, I think their vote of confidence is going to be diminishing here too, not because of any bot numbers, but just because now we've politicalized this between the left and the right.
Strangest take I've ever heard from Gene Munster. Let's just agree to disagree.
Elon Musk, he's threatening to call off his $44 billion acquisition of Twitter. He says they're hiding data about fake user accounts. You've never liked Twitter. You've called it a garbage company.
No, of course they're hiring. They're a garbage company.
Tell us what you really think. I might be related to this guy.
They're an awful acquisition. I'm all for this free speech. I'm all for it. I think that's a great fight, and I'm behind them. But this company has mostly a lot of robots and fake accounts. All he wants to do is look under the hood, and they don't want him to do that because they've been hiding this for a very long time.
Now, of course, I don't know for sure, but if I had to bet, I would bet that this is an accurate statement. Twitter knows they're full of shit. They've been fiddling the numbers a little bit here to emphasize the human users and de-emphasize the number of bots. And they've probably done so in a way that they can just go, oops, we're just brain dead and we're really dumb and we couldn't figure out that despite all the data here, it's actually evident that there's way more than 5% bots on the platform. We're sorry, but we plead ignorance. We definitely didn't intentionally mislead or deceive investors or lie to the SEC because that would be fraud and we would never commit fraud. It's a total coincidence as to why we're not willing to release the data to Elon Musk so he can do his own analysis and substantiate our claims. Please don't think about that too much. Thank you.
So I think if he doesn't get what he wants, he should drive that stock down more and buy it at a discount, at a bargain basement discount.
In my opinion, this seems like the most likely outcome. Now, to be clear, Elon is obviously going to use this to negotiate the price of Twitter down. But as I said, they're really bent over a barrel. One way or another, the truth comes to light and either Twitter gets absolutely in the public markets and the stock collapses because Elon walks from the deal, and then the world still finds out they were possibly misleading people about the number of bots, or the world also finds out that they were possibly misleading the entire world about the number of bots, and then Elon uses that to negotiate the price of the deal. Either way, Twitter's in big trouble. And now a few brief thoughts from a man who may be the most intuitive business person on the planet, Gary Vaynerchuk.
I think what should be done with it is, let me ask everybody who's watching right now. Amazon is a lot different than the company we met 25 years ago. Yeah. Netflix is crazy different. than the way we met it. We used to send CDs in the mail to watch it. Facebook is different. Google is different. Everything's different except for Twitter. Twitter is basically the same product we met in 2006. I think what Elon should do, if I bought it, I would immediately make Twitter a streaming service alternative. I think Twitter has the credibility and the permission to compete with Netflix and Hulu.
Well, I didn't see that coming, but you know what? I think this may be a reasonable idea. I think one of the interesting things about Twitter, as Gary Vaynerchuk points out there, the company hasn't changed in 20 years. What the f***? Don't get me wrong, the original idea, obviously decent. That's why the company still exists. But there's been a complete and utter lack of evolution and innovation within Twitter. Why can't they do something completely out of left field that no one sees coming? Why not become a competing streaming service? Why not focus on video content? Why not take on YouTube with a subscriber-based video content model? I mean, the sky's the limit.
Because it's where we all go to talk about the things that we saw on Netflix and Hulu and television. I think it should get credit card subscriptions immediately. It should create a premium product that makes us pay $5 a month. There's not a business on earth that wouldn't be thrilled to pay $20 a month to stay on Twitter the way they're on Twitter right now. I think there's a lot of innovation that Twitter needs. Simple things like an edit button. How much of a pain in the ass is it when you misspell something or cut off what you said, you gotta delete it and write it again? Like, there's tiny UI, UX things. So I think my intuition, given his track record, is I'm sure everyone will talk about freedom of speech and this, that, and the other thing, and I'm empathetic to that. That's a big conversation. Me as a business nerd, I just want to see him operate innovation within the product because I think the product can be much bigger.
Completely agree with Gary here. Some creative and interesting ideas, but the core thesis here, clearly, innovation is what really matters here. Twitter is ripe for disruption, ripe for innovation, ripe for new ideas. But of course, they've been too busy focused on deleting people's tweets, shadow banning accounts, and accidentally fact-checking things as false that are actually true for the last X amount of years, so clearly no time to innovate. But that's all about to change. Let me know in the comments below, what are some of the wacky, crazy, innovative ideas that you think Twitter might be able to pursue in terms of expanding and further monetizing their business? Anyway, hope you guys and girls have enjoyed the video. The world literally can't stop talking about this deal. Every network, it's broken through the mainstream finance media into the mainstream media, whether it's left-wing media, right-wing media, allegedly centrist media, and so on. Everyone's talking about this deal. Everyone has an opinion or 12. Some of them ridiculous, some of them reasonable, some of them in between. In short, I personally believe that there's no way that this deal closes at the originally negotiated price. I still think it's more likely than not the deal does close, but at a much lower price. And in either case, I think Twitter is about to be exposed in a very big, painful, and embarrassing manner. Of course, I could totally be wrong, and maybe they have a valid reason for being unwilling to provide the data that would allow Elon's team to substantiate the bot claims and complete the transaction, despite them publicly stating it was in the best interest of shareholders for the deal to complete. Something to think about. And lastly, don't forget, you can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. You'll gain access to well over 100 Q&A videos, loads of other exclusive videos, content, and perks, including access to my Tesla stock price targets out over the next decade, in the bear case, the base case, the bull case, and the hyper bull case. So, see you over on Patreon. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel, and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.